I was primarily a drinker and a lot of methamphetamine. I'm from Arizona. Meth has been big out here for a long time. When I was 19, was the first time I tried to get sober, and I wrestled with trying to stop on my own, maybe just smoke pot, all the things that a person tries when they're trying to limit or mitigate the damage or try to find some kind of a workaround, to fix it without really doing the impossibly hard work of just changing your life from the inside out. I tried that stuff until I was 26.
Welcome to Think Business with Tyler, sharing our methods and strategies for success. Join in on our conversations with business owners as we highlight their triumphs and detail how they overcame the challenges they faced while continuing to grow and scale their business. It's time to think life, think success, and think business with your host, Tyler Martin.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Think Business with Tyler. What does it take to rebuild your life from scratch and then scale a company that helps others do the same? Today's guest, Estil Wallace, doesn't sugarcoat anything. He spent his early years battling addiction, homelessness, and hopelessness. Now, he runs a thriving behavioral health agency with over 120 staff and multiple facilities. In this episode, Estil shares the mindset shift that helped him stop thinking like a startup and start acting like a CEO. How he built culture at scale in an emotionally intense industry, and why learning to get out of his team's way unlocked explosive growth. Whether you're stuck in the grind or trying to lead through chaos, this episode is packed with insights and realness you won't hear in most business conversations. Let's get into it. Hey, Estil, welcome to the Think Business with Tyler podcast show. How you doing today?
I'm great, Tyler. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great too. Thanks for asking. And I'm excited to start talking with you. I'd love to just learn first what you do professionally.
Well, I'm an entrepreneur, so I do a few things and like to build things. My primary company is Cornerstone Healing Center. It's a behavioral healthcare agency. So think mental health, substance use disorders, but it's more than that also.
Yeah, very cool. And then how about a tidbit about you personally? Is there anything maybe people don't commonly know about you that you're open to sharing?
Well, people that know me already know that I'm in recovery myself. I've been sober 20 years. Something that a lot of people don't know probably is that I can say the alphabet backwards, although I don't think that has a lot of utility. I don't think it's very useful information.
I'm dying to know, did that just, did you practice that or?
I learned it in a summer camp when I was 11 or 12. Now my kids who are 10 and 7, they can both do it. My 3-year-old can't do it yet. He can't do it forwards yet.
Okay. There's got to be something you can get out of that. I need to think about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start about your journey. So you mentioned this. So at a young age, you battled addiction. You were homeless in your teenage years. Can you walk us through, when did that turning point happen that, you saw a path to a better life?
Gosh, I was trying to get sober off drugs and alcohol. I was primarily a drinker and a lot of methamphetamine. I'm from Arizona. Meth has been big out here for a long time. When I was 19, was the first time I tried to get sober, and I wrestled with trying to stop on my own, maybe just smoke pot, all the things that a person tries when they're trying to limit or mitigate the damage or try to find some kind of a workaround, to fix it without really doing the impossibly hard work of just changing your life from the inside out. I tried that stuff until I was 26. I was in a county jail here for 45 days and went to 12-step meetings. I'd been to 12-step meetings before. I'd tried a treatment center before, but for whatever reason, I was in that cell and with those other guys, and the message landed and it made sense to me. And there's a book, a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is the book that all the 12-step fellowships use. I got one that you put in we call them a tank order. You get a tank order to get, one of these books. You get like a Bible or a big book, or maybe there's probably a handful of other things you could get.
Sure.
I was lucky enough to get my hands on one of these big books, and I started reading it, and I had the experience with that book that a lot of people have with it. And I thought, have you guys seen this? To me, it was mind blowing that the book written almost 100 years ago could have such a profound application on my life. And, when I got out of jail, I did what hopefully a lot of people do when they're trying to turn their lives around. I got into a program. I got into back then there were halfway houses, and I got a crappy job, and I just did steps while I was working a crappy job, and my life was hanging together by, Scotch tape and Band-Aids. And after about a year and a half, 2 years, I sort of became an adult. It was weird.
Wow. And
Weird.
how does entrepreneurship start to fit into this?
It's pretty wild. I was a poor student growing up. I'm not necessarily stupid. I don't think I'm particularly smart. I feel like I'm very average. I feel like I'm an extra average type of person. So it's not that I failed out of school because I was so dumb. I just was a poor student, didn't pay attention. I was drinking a lot. I was doing drugs, but not adhering to the standards in academia. And then in my early adulthood, not really adhering to social norms, then sort of starting by my perception at the very bottom. I learned this valuable trick to business, and that is work ethic, grind, commitment trumps almost everything else. I didn't know that. I had no reason to know that, except I moved furniture for $8 an hour. And I realized that I got tipped better and I got better moves and I got more work when I just because I worked harder. And then when I got into sales later, same thing applied. And then when I got into management later, the same thing applied. And then after that, I started my first little company. And the same rule is applied. And I watch for it when we hire. I watch for people like that.
Yeah, see, I was about to ask you, because you said, hey, I'm average intelligence or whatever, which I'm sure you're higher than that, but because I think you're just humble. But I get your point. Like you're not an Elon Musk maybe, but you're able to get things done. But what the differentiator is, what I see in a lot of people that achieve at high levels, is that drive and that grind. Yeah. And it's interesting how it kind of just, you became aware of it and then you just started to multiply it, sounds like.
Yeah. Elbow grease goes a long way, and you don't have to have an education or fancy resources to have it.
Does cash flow have you down? Profit not where you think it should be? Maybe it's the long hours. Let's meet to see if I can help. I bridge driving the financial performance of your business to hit growth and success targets. Book a complimentary meeting at meetforgrowth.com to get started now. Once again, that's meetforgrowth.com. I look forward to talking with you. And thanks for listening to the show.
Yeah, elbow grease goes a long way, and you don't have to have an education or fancy resources to have it.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. So you've maintained sobriety now for 20 years. How did that recovery process change your perspective in terms of what's possible in life and business? Like, is that something that happens gradually and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much that I can achieve? Are you still building on it? How does that play into your sobriety?
I would agree that I'm still learning, still growing, out of my comfort zone quite a bit. That's the thing about growth, right? Growth never really feels good. You can look backward and go, wow, that was amazing. In the moment, you're praying, you're holding your head in your hands, you're trying to figure out what you're going to do. It's not always plotting the next 5 moves. Sometimes you're up against the wall and you're trying to figure out the next move. There's a book, what's it called? The Hard Thing About Hard Things. I believe it's Ben Horowitz. And that's the name of the book. The Hard Thing About Hard Things, building a business when there are no good solutions or no right answers or something like that. And that's really what so much of business has appeared to be. And that parallels really well with early recovery for me and for lots of people that I've worked with. It's like you're starting with an overwhelming, infinite number of things that you could do. The possibilities of what direction to go are endless. I think even more so now than when I got sober 20 years ago, because in the time I've been sober, we've got the advent of smartphones, social media, web 1.0, 2.0, all this stuff has happened since I've been sober. So to watch the world that my children are growing up in and how much distraction is available, to be able to draw from that, what is it I want to do in my life? What are the things I want to give to and get from this experience of humanity? And out of the infinite possibilities, what are the handful of things that I can hone in on that are going to help push that forward? That skill is critical to finding long-term recovery, and it's critical in business. It's really very, very similar in that way. It's one thing to just do enough to eke by. And there are people that do that both in business and in recovery. I know people in both of those realms that just sort of do the bare minimum and they sort of get the bare minimum back. But if you really want to push the envelope and go far, in my case, again, I never felt like I was super smart. I read a lot. I figured out the simplest thing. And it started with that big book, with the AA book. I read the book and then read it like a textbook, highlighted it, practiced the concepts within it, and my life changed. And I thought to myself, what else do I know nothing about that's like this? And business is that way. There are so many books, especially the foundational books like The Richest Man in Babylon or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where if you read those and actually use them like a textbook and practice the concepts that they outline, I mean, you almost shouldn't read another book for a year or two. I mean, honestly, depending on how fast you can move. But you read a book like Rich Dad, Poor Dad and start trying this stuff, and it'd take you a year, maybe 2 years to actually build and try something. People say, I want to start a business. Well, that's not even like the right direction. Like, why do you want to start? Like, what business do you like? You want to start a company, go file an LLC and get an EIN number. You can do it in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Cost you about $100 filing fees. But that's not really what they mean. What they really mean is they want to make more money. They want to have more time freedom. They want to spend time with their family. They want to travel, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's a much bigger ball of wax than I want to start a business.
So true. Many years ago, I had a star salesperson pull out Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he would read it during lunch, and I'd see him reading it all the time. And sure enough, about a year and a half in, he gives me his notice to start his own business. And I'll tell you, about half the people, and it was really awesome for him. It hurt a little bit. I'm not going to deny it because he's one of the top performers, and him and his brother too, by the way, which was slightly less top performer, but still a good performer. Lost them both in a matter of a week. But I hear that so many times that people read Rich Dad, Poor Dad or other books that have really just major influences on their life. And I agree with you. Like it's one thing to read it, but it's another thing to like absorb it and then ultimately act on it, which I think sometimes we gloss over that. I think, and that is what eliminates the transformational change, because it's just more like you read it and it's like, okay, what's next? Instead of read it and apply it.
Yeah, I think it's very easy, maybe even easier now with all of the technology and the social media and the way we consume content at such a rapid pace, to look at something, compartmentalize and think, all right, I know what that is next. It's like, no, you don't. You don't know what that is. You don't know what that is until you've taken it out, looked at it from multiple angles, tried it, failed, tried it again, failed again, going through the process to eventually get some toehold of success. Then you can look at a concept like this and go, yeah, I kind of know. And that person won't say, yeah, I know what that is. They'll say, yeah, I kind of know. I know a little bit.
Yeah. So true. So, hey, talk to me a little bit about Cornerstone. So you then go on, I think Cornerstone's been around for 7 or 8 years. Yep. What is Cornerstone? And then I also want to ask you, you started out with 10 beds. What was your vision when you started that? So first, what is Cornerstone? And then what was your vision when you started with 10 beds?
When we started, what we wanted to do was create an environment. If you're looking at the treatment space, behavioral health, primarily, we started as substance use disorder only. So drugs and alcohols, think drug rehab from the movies.
Okay.
We just opened a 10-bed treatment facility for men.
Okay.
And all we treated was drugs and alcohol. And the vision was to create an environment that would have stronger outcomes than the average, that is. I can name some places that have outcomes that we try to mimic and that we actually do mimic really well. But the data supports just a few different things that work really, really well for long-term or permanent recovery. And they're not the most popular. Primarily, I think because it can get expensive. It can get kind of pricey to deliver a service that strong. But that's been what we've been obsessed with since the beginning, is how do we provide the best possible treatment that we know is available based on data? And there's tons of it. How do we provide that at a price that most people can afford? So that was what we were been obsessed with the whole time. So we're still obsessed with that. But we were 10 beds, men only, drugs and alcohol only in the beginning. And we're an agency now. We have 3 facilities. We treat mental health primary. In fact, we probably treat more primary mental health than we do substance use disorders today. We're a massive provider for the DUI and DWI community here in Arizona. We do a whole bunch of different stuff.
Is your business model is it private pay, or do you work through an insurance groups where your revenue comes from?
Yes. We do all of that. So we're a network across the board with commercial plans. So I think the Blue Crosses and United Healthcares and Aetnas and Cignas. We're also in network with multiple Medicaid plans here in Arizona. We also take private pay, and that happens. We do treat, obviously can't say who, but we treat government officials, SoundCloud rappers, professional athletes. We treat everybody. It's awesome. Yeah. So and what's interesting is in any one of our milieus, if you were to sit into a group of 10 or 12 people in a circle, there might be a millionaire. There might be a guy that just got out of prison with tattoos on his face. And there's a stay-at-home mom who drinks too much. We have an interesting mix. It's an interesting mix of people all the time. Some of the stories are bananas.
Yeah, I have about 10 clients that have mental health, their mental health group practices.
Sure.
And I don't, obviously, they don't share with me the stories just for privacy reasons, but sometimes they'll give me some top level stuff.
Yeah,
And it just kind of blows my mind. Like
it's
you,
wild.
unless you're in that world, you don't really, if you're kind of in the white picket fence world, you don't know that exists. You don't know the level it exists and the help people need. It's a pretty big deal.
It is. I'm not sure. Some people say, it pops up on the news from time to time. Fentanyl, I think, made a lot of headlines a few years ago. But if you look at how many people die in the United States from drugs and alcohol specifically, and I'm not including car crashes or suicides either, just direct overdose from opiates and direct overdose from alcohol, you're looking at 277,000 lives annually in America. That's the third leading cause of death in America.
Wow. That's hard to believe.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
It goes heart disease, cancer, drugs, and alcohol.
And they're usually, well, I shouldn't say usually because I don't know the data, but whenever I see it, it seems like it's a young male that probably their upside is huge and unfortunately got sucked into, the addiction and just was never able to get out.
It's very common. It's very common.
Yeah.
Yeah. People dying from alcohol, these aren't generally people in their 60s and 70s. They're in their 30s and 40s, some in their 50s. Fentanyl's a bit, the opiates skew the numbers lower, the age numbers lower. You're looking at people in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah. I want to go back to something you said. You're trying to deliver at lowest cost, highest results. Like, help me. I don't want to get too technical,
Sure.
but how do you do that? Like, because the way I see it, honestly, I've never had an addiction as it relates to alcohol or any type of substance yet. Hopefully I don't, but I guess I don't fully appreciate, like, how do you meet those two together? And because is everybody treatable? I guess would be my other question. Are there some people where they come in and you go, man, it's just, do you not take them in because they're not treatable, or is everybody where? I'm sorry if these are really basic questions, but I'm just curious.
No, I love it. I love it. So it is very rare that we would turn someone away because of acuity. I think we have occasionally turned people away because of medical acuity. We're not really a hospital. We have medical staff and we do some medical stuff, but that's ancillary. It's really there as a supporting modality. It's not our primary thing. So there are times where people come in with serious medical issues and we just aren't able to accommodate for that stuff. But no, as far as psychologically, spiritually, we're not turning people away that are, too far gone or whatever. People that don't come in, they will sometimes become daunted by the amount of work this really represents. I think that's probably the most common thing. People want to, like we were talking about, compartmentalizing and oversimplifying things. I think a lot of people oversimplify what changing their whole effing life looks like. And to them, well, it's 30 days, right? Well, I don't know. We haven't done any assessments on you yet. I have no idea. Generally not. I would say 60 to 90 days is a lot better bet. And our average stay, our curriculum is a year, and our average stay where somebody's living with us is 5 months. And we don't say, hey, it's a 5-month program. I mean, I don't know. You might be out of here in 60 days. It just depends. That being said, how do we do it? That's the question. If I took somebody's 25-year-old son or daughter who's shooting heroin and they bring him to my house, said, hey, can you help my kid? The answer is yes. And what we're going to do is they're going to stay with other like-minded folks that are going through the same heartbreaking, seemingly impossible work. And the work is really not that complicated. It's modern trauma therapy. We look at the things people go through as children, their family systems, their place in the world, their identity, and we marry up modern day trauma therapy, which is in trauma therapy is used by, the Department of Defense. We're talking PTSD level trauma therapy. We're trying to help take things that set people into outer space and make them something that can be archived in the memory where it belongs. Bad things happen to all kinds of people, good people, and some of those wounds, they can just stay right beneath the surface and can wreck someone's life for years. So there's a lot of great evidence-backed therapies that can help us put that stuff where it belongs so it can be talked about without somebody losing it. So it's modern day therapy mixed with good old-fashioned 12-step. And that gets oddly, that's not as common in treatment as you would think it is. It's usually something that's sort of mild, like, oh yeah, like we allow 12-step meetings, or maybe we take them to a meeting once in a while. Cornerstone, it's baked in. They go to 12-step meetings every single day. They have 12-step sponsors. It's just a part of their curriculum. The marriage of therapy, of modern day treatment and 12-step is what we do that's a little different. And it's right under everybody's nose. We don't have, our secret sauce isn't such a secret, but the data's there. the data shows that it works.
Wow.
To give an explanation, there's a program, it's the Human Intervention, what's the other letters? It's called the HIMSS program. It is the program that the FAA sponsors. So when pilots get in trouble with drugs and alcohol, we can't put them back in the sky when they're all loaded, right? So they go through a pretty rigorous program with their license held in jeopardy. It's a 5-year program. It's 12-step. It's treatment. They're doing hair follicle testing. And it's abstinence-based, meaning that they're not, like, let's say you've got a pilot who's got a heroin problem or a fentanyl issue. They're not going to allow a pilot who's taking buprenorphine or methadone to be up in the sky. Those are opiates.
Sure.
They're not illicit. They're prescribed and they're monitored by a doctor. But we're not putting surgeons back in the OR and we're not putting pilots back in the sky that are on methadone. We're just not. Right. Why? Well, because we deem them as critical components to our society. All right. So if we unwind that for a moment, think, okay, well, what if my 26-year-old son is a cop? Because he didn't go to medical school, his life isn't worth as much.
Right.
That's the question I ask myself. So how can we do what we do for pilots and doctors for everybody? How can we provide that same level of treatment? It's just having a large clinical team, which can get expensive from a business owner standpoint. You could deliver treatment. You could do what we do, not really, but you could do a flavor of what we do with a much lower overhead than we carry. So that could happen. You get a better profit margin, but you're going to put out a shittier product.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. It brings me, I want to shift gears here on that notion. Use the terminology small business mindset. You've had a small business mindset. Yeah. I want to know where did you realize that was coming up and what have you done to kind of get away from that?
It happened about a year and a half, about 2 years in. I was in startup mode. This isn't my first business. It's not my only business now, but it's my primary. And prior to this, I'd done several projects, most of which didn't work out. A couple had some success. So I had sort of got this fixed mindset of being in a startup that just I couldn't shake. I was just always in startup mode, like where I'm the CEO, I'm the janitor, I'm the biz dev guy, I'm in every role. And about 2 years in, the guy who was at the time, we only had one facility. He was my executive director. Today, he is my chief operations officer. He sat me down. He said, I got to talk to you. And it's pretty uncomfortable. And I said, okay. So I braced myself. What's up? I think he's going to quit or something.
Exactly.
Right? He says, I need you to do CEO stuff, man. I was like, huh? He's like, quit running groups, quit saying yes to everything. Can you go do some other stuff? He's like, I don't know how to do what you're supposed to be doing. And I know how to do this stuff that you're meddling in. I got it, bro. And I was like, I was a little on my heels, not offended, but it did catch me by surprise. And yeah, within a few months, we had doubled in size, and then we did it again, and then again. And that's where the 80-20 rule comes in.
Wow.
Really trying to figure out what am I spending time on that someone else should be doing? Because as an entrepreneur, my skill set is very unique, and yet it doesn't mean what's that like the halo effect. Like I'm not good at a bunch of other stuff. I think people can fall victim to that. They see an entrepreneur and think, oh my gosh, you're so smart. It's like, no, I'm just comfortable with taking risks and I understand the business of building a business. I'm not good really at any of the little things that we do, honestly.
But I think that's the interesting thing though. I think that's true of a lot of business owners. Like, yeah. And you really, honestly, you don't want to be like, if you've got good people around you, it's good that you don't know the weeds of every little thing because it'll just consume you.
It hamstrings you. I've known guys that are HVAC guys, for example, and they do really well. And then they start a company and they're running the company and they're still climbing on roofs and they're still doing this stuff. And then it's been 5 years. It's like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. It's hard to let go though, too. Part of it, I think.
It is so hard to let go. I mean, I'm talking about me. Like I had a hard time letting go of that stuff. And as I've been able to let go successively, we have grown exponentially.
Wow.
Every time I was just telling Danny before this started, I saw his Slack notifications going off. I was just telling him I deleted Slack off my phone like 9 months ago. I don't need to be in those Slack conversations. I've got multiple conversations in departments that I'm interested in and the tendency is to get in there and meddle.
Right.
I have an opinion. This is my baby. I built the place, all that ego stuff. But the truth is, these are smart folks and they're not going to do it exactly the way I would do it. It's probably better that way.
If you're a business owner feeling stuck in your business, overwhelmed, responsible for everything that happens, and working long hours, Tyler helps his clients develop processes, hire high-performing team members, and better understand their financial metrics and numbers to allow for a more predictable, less hands-on business. To schedule a free, no-pressure consultation, head to thinktyler.com and click the meeting button. Tyler would love to see if he can help you work on your business, not in your business. Schedule a consultation today at thinktyler.com. Think life, think success, think business.
These are smart folks, and they're not going to do it exactly the way I would do it. It's probably better that way.
Right. Have you always been that way? Because that's a huge part of it, is that you're accepting that they may not follow the path that you would do it, and you're comfortable with their end result, and you know they can handle it. They're smart people. Is that something you've always felt that way, or have you kind of had to warm up to that? Because I know that's a big thing. Business owners a lot of times can't accept until they warm up to the people may approach it and solve the problem in a different way, but get to the same end result. Sometimes they can't accept that for a while. It takes a long time to warm up to that.
I'm no different than the people you're referring to. It took me a while to warm up to it. And I'll caveat this with, I mean, it's not 100% acceptance 100% of the time.
Sure.
There are still things that I will get in the middle of, but it's fewer and farther between as years go on. As some of that has to do with how you front load the team also. When you have an A player or two, that changes so much of the game. We have a staff of over 120, 125 or something.
Wow.
So yeah, we have a pretty big staff at this point. So within that, you've got some people that are really, really good. And it hinders our growth when I get in their way, when I want to train them or tell them how we used to do things around here. That just gets in the way. But there are moments where I've got people who aren't A players. I catch something through email or something in Slack, and I intervene and say, hey, I would prefer it if you handled this way. But that's a very touchy issue, because building the culture, I think, is the CEO's responsibility. I'm not so sure that maintaining it into perpetuity needs to be the CEO's sole responsibility. The CEO really needs to be, if you're at the helm, I mean, your responsibility is really looking at what are the next 5 moves. Given the infinite number of possibilities and our limited resources, what is not the answer, because there's no one answer. What is the best answer for our next move, and the move after that, and the move after that? What are the second and third order consequences of the 2 or 3, 4 things I'm looking at for our future? What are the extenuating circumstances? And then what is the ripple effect of those choices? And does that fit into a longer 5 or 10 year plan? Because everything is so connected, and things aren't going to work out perfect, right? Plans are just plans. And then we try, and things pivot and change and iterate. And so, yeah, trying to figure that out is more than a full-time job.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've got you're clear, your role as the visionary, and then you have your COO who's probably doing some level of integration, kind of following like the EOS model. I'm not sure.
You're a traction guy?
Yeah. So it sounds like you're kind of following that model, which is awesome. So Estil, I know when it comes to 120 person, you guys have gone through a lot of growth. Healthcare, you kind of tend to, sometimes it's a very taxing job, and sometimes the emotions of the roles can also come out in the workplace. How do you manage that? What are your thoughts around culture? How have you guys managed it? And then how does that play into retention, if it does?
It's a great question. I wish there was a magic bullet. I wish there was a simple, straightforward answer. The best I can do is sort of relay our experience. It was easy when we were small, when we were 8 people, 10 people. It was we could have all hands meetings, twice a day. It was no big deal. We can't even do all hands meetings now because we have so many clients in care and staff have to be with clients. We literally can't do an all hands meeting. It's not even a possibility. So as we've grown, core people in primary roles, the roles have grown into departments. So those people have elevated into director roles, and of them, a couple of them, I should say, have elevated into executive positions. And as we bring people into directorship, they're generally people from the department that really not only get the department, but get us as a culture. We have 2 driving forces in our organization. They're clinical excellence and financial excellence. So this stuff isn't rocket science. We're training a young leader right now to manage a department that he's been in for about a year. And that was one of the first things that I brought up. I just kind of eavesdropped on the conversation. I was waiting for Danny on another thing, and just kind of became part of their conversation. And he hadn't heard this before, and he's worked here a year. And that's the driving force of everything we do. Because he said, I don't really understand the business side, what's going on under the hood. I said, well, this is how it works. You can apply this lens to every single thing that we do. It has to be clinically excellent, meaning it provides the best possible chance of an outcome for our client that we serve. What is the best thing that we can do for the client? And number two, we have to get paid for the very difficult work that we're doing. If it meets those two criteria, run it. You don't need to be asking me anything. If it makes sense and by those two criteria, it's what we should be doing. And I don't have all the answers. We're doing a lot more today than we were doing a year ago. And we're doing more. We're a completely different organization from where we were 5 and 6 years ago.
Yeah. And I'm sure based on your growth that we briefly talked about to start the show, you're almost in a different place today than you were a year ago. Yeah. And I would think at your trajectory, that's probably true next year too.
I hope so. Well, the Lindy effect says that as long as we've been around, you could double that. So hopefully we'll be around for 7-8 years.
I love it.
At least.
Hey, I want to switch gears a little bit. I've heard you talk about radical ownership as part of your guiding principles. What does that mean to you? And do you have any specific example of where you kind of would define something as radical ownership that you've had to do?
Gosh, well, first of all, I'll give a nod to Jocko Willink in his book, Extreme Ownership. When we were smaller, we used to have required reading for everyone in the company. We still have a couple of books, but honestly, the only two books that are required reading anymore are Traction and Measure What Matters.
Okay.
But in years previous, we would get on kicks and have people read Extreme Ownership. We would have them read Mindset by Carol Dweck, among other books. But with a nod to Jocko Willink, really, really owning every part of your role and how the role interacts with all the other roles inside of an organization is critical. I cannot work effectively with someone who sweeps things under the rug. We all make mistakes. I make plenty. And at the size we're at now, I make mistakes that cost millions of dollars.
Sure. And
I still make them sometimes.
Wow.
So, I mean, what am I going to do? Sweep it under the rug, pretend like it didn't happen, hope nobody noticed? It's a lot, not easy. Those conversations aren't easy, but the way we build is iteration. It's iterative. So we're trying things and some of those things don't work out. And that's not only is that okay, it's encouraged. I think that sort of relates back into culture too. The idea of extreme ownership or radical ownership is something that's my COO and I, when I say we've done so much together. When we're training or onboarding and enculturating our leaders, that's one of the things we got to get them to unlearn is this, corporate posturing of like, I want to look good. I want to make sure my presentation is buttoned up. Like, yeah, you should be prepared, but know that if you get caught off guard because something doesn't make sense and you can't defend it, A, B, and C, maybe you're wrong. It doesn't mean that I'm right. Let's work together and find a solution that works better than the bullshit you just showed us.
Yeah.
And that happens to me. I get put on my heels and asked to defend why I think we should do something a certain way. And I've got to come up with an argument with a beginning, middle, and end that makes sense more so than somebody else's solution.
Sure.
Yeah, we're trying to build something.
Do you worry at all? What I've heard is a couple things is like, well, you're too big now to have the entire company in on a meeting, which makes sense. You have 120 people. That's hard to do. And then, you used to, in your culture, you guys used to all read a book and everyone would be in on that. It seems as you're growing, unfortunately, and it comes with growth, some of that foundational culture stuff is going away. Does that worry you at all as a CEO? And are you doing anything to like counteract that?
It does. It concerns me. I think culture, if anything, can be watched like a waistline. You've got to kind of keep an eye on it. I'm very fortunate that I've got a great COO, so he watches it more closely than I do. Also, I think front loading it. As we onboard, when we're sifting through resumes, I'm ruthless with resumes. My resume looked so bad when my career started, and having built so many of them, not only for myself, but for men I've helped, that are getting sober, to then in the professional world, like I'm just ruthless. I'm a very big critic of I'm very critical of resumes. So I've sort of taught that skill of being able to cut through nonsense to my directors, to my leadership, and meeting people, talking to them, seeing if there's a lot of questions that we'll ask that the answers don't really matter. It's the inflection, it's the honesty, it's the authenticity that we're looking for. We're looking for, what kind of a human are you? Are you somebody that I can get in the trenches with and build with? Because if I don't, I shouldn't say I don't care. It is a lot less operative what school you went to or how high your education level went. Now there are certain positions where you have to have certain letters behind your name to perform the function. That aside, that's not the main metric. That's not the main KPI that I'm looking for when we're hiring people. When we're hiring people, we're looking for culture fit first. Do you believe in the mission that we have to help people heal mind, body, and spirit, to be the best at what we do? If they've got that heart and soul, a lot of the other skills we can train, again, depending on the position they're coming to.
Sure.
There's certain things. I mean, if you're coming into an SEO position, you've got to know some SEO.
Sure. Okay. Getting close here to wrapping up. I want to cover a couple more things.
Sure.
I want to talk a little bit about the financial side of things. It sounds like you guys are into traction. You probably do some system of scorecarding. What are some things that you guys look for in your business in terms of metrics or KPIs that, and I don't need the specific numbers, but just in terms of that are important to you, and you kind of are like, hey, this is indication we're going the right direction, or this is an indication we've got a challenge?
Retention rates within our client base, not that we don't look at retention rates within our HR,
sure.
But in terms of our client base, so we have a metric that's they're two opposite metrics of the same thing. You've got completion rate. That's people that make it all the way through our program, because the outcomes for people who complete are off the charts, bonkers. I mean, it's more than 80% of the people who complete our program are still sober and meeting main social determinants of health years after treatment.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great. The question then becomes, how do we improve the completion rate? Because completion rates they're never going to be 100%, which means I'm never going to be satisfied with them. So how do we improve? And that becomes a never-ending puzzle that we just continue to work on. Another one is the opposite of that, which is against medical advice, we call it AMA. Somebody who leaves early, somebody who says, screw this, I'm out of here. We keep a pretty careful watch on that. If the AMA rate starts to go up or has a spike, we look to see if there's something operationally wrong. What's happening? Interestingly, like one of the things that'll cause an AMA rate to spike is, imagine we have a lot of different housing units, a lot of real estate.
Right. We
open up a new house or a new property, let's call it a 20-bed property, and we fill it with incoming, because we got 8 to 10, 15 people that want to check in every single day of the week. So let's say we fill up a brand new house with brand new people. That has happened before, and the AMA rate in a house like that is through the roof.
Wow.
Because they're all new. And nobody's got any healing going on. Nobody's got any skin in the game yet. Everybody just checked in, and next thing you know, everybody wants to leave. You start having exoduses, where we've learned that when we open up new properties, we will seed the new property with multiple people that are doing well from our other locations, and just leave a few beds open kind of everywhere, and then fill those beds. So that way new clients are coming in to a seasoned house. They're coming into a place where there's systems and there's culture within that house, and they all know what they're doing. And hey, you're new here. Let me show you where this is and that is. It's a metric that is important to us because it meets both the criteria, both clinical. I want everybody to get and stay sober. I really do. I hope that everybody can grab hold of this and build a new life like I have and like so many people have. And not only is it break my heart when somebody leaves early, it also means that the people that are treating them aren't going to get paid. Like, we have to fill that slot with somebody else. We don't have to, but I mean, that's what we're in business of. And we're full. I mean, we're 162 beds this morning, and every bed's full.
Wow. So when you come to expanding your business, is your business model basically you're going to go and buy another property, assuming you can't expand a building you already have, you have to go find another property. And how does that work? Like, do you do studies that you can fill that room or that house, or do you know already that, hey, if I go in this area, I've got enough insurance or private pay that'll support this area? Like, how much down to science do you have it?
Yeah, it's more nuanced than that even.
Okay.
It's a great question. So we have many different programs. So we'll look at expanding a specific program. So at the high level, it looks like, we're adding people to the census. And in some cases that requires supportive housing and food. Some cases it doesn't. So it just depends on which program. So we'll look at a program and say, well, we feel like this program has room for growth. So right now we're building out an SMI program, serious mental illness. This is it's a subgroup of mental health. So we treat serious mental illness, but we haven't had a specific program for those folks only. So we're in the middle of building tail end. We've just about got it built. We're building an SMI specific program now that'll have its own supportive housing complex. It'll have its own set of case management and navigators, therapists that are assigned to that milieu specifically. So that's how we look at growth. Like, which program are we can be optimized further for growth? if we're turning people away for a subset of one particular program, something we do, there's clearly room. So then can we, with the resources we have, expand that particular program? And of course, it's not just, let's say supportive housing is necessary. It's not just get another house or get an apartment complex. And that's got its own complications. It's also the staffing requirements. It's also moving, it's buying furniture, it's getting through licensure and credentialing. So there's a lot of second and third order stuff that has to get done to say, oh, I want to put 10 more beds in. Well, if I could just go rent a house and put 10 people in it, that would be easy, but it's not. We have to do a whole bunch of things around it.
I didn't even think about that. Credentialing is probably a 1 to 3 month process potentially.
Yes, that's a good cold guess. Yeah, 1 to 3 months.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just got so many moving parts. You're right. Like that expense. And to think how fast you guys are growing even makes it even kind of more mind boggling, I guess.
And by doing a good enough job by actually becoming a CEO over the last few years, now I'm seated with a total different frustration where I'm, like you, I'm moving chess pieces around and then frustrated that reality is so slow. We come up with a plan, get buy-in from the rest of my partners, get my COO and my executive team bought in, and then it takes a year.
Wow. Yeah.
How are things going? Well, we're working on it.
Talk to me in 365 days.
Yep.
Hey, so the last question, then we'll wrap up. If you could maybe keep it to a minute. I was going to ask you for 3, but I'm just going to ask you for 1 just because time I kind of went over. Do you have like 1 tip, entrepreneurial tip, something you've learned in your journey you could provide to us as entrepreneurs? Maybe we could apply to our business or even personal life if something really stands out.
Yeah, if it would be to get out of the way. If you've got a business that's working, if you're working and you're delivering value to a market and people are paying you for it, get yourself some help. At the very least, an executive assistant. Get yourself some help so that you don't have to do every single thing, and that will enable your business to grow. That's one way to never grow a business and stay small, is just make sure you do everything yourself. It's awful. My advice would be to find some way to get out of the way a little bit so that you can do the more high value tasks, I should say.
Does cash flow have you down? Profit not where you think it should be? Maybe it's the long hours. Let's meet to see if I can help. I bridge driving the financial performance of your business to hit growth and success targets. Book a complimentary meeting at meetforgrowth.com to get started now. Once again, that's meetforgrowth.com. I look forward to talking with you. And thanks for listening to the show.
Find some way to get out of the way a little bit so that you can do the more high value tasks, I should say.
That's a huge one. That's a great one. Is it Buy Your Time Back? Oh man, I always forget
Dan Martell.
Yeah, that's an amazing book. That concept of kind of measuring tasks that you're doing and don't do $10 tasks if you're the CEO. It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
So that's a good one. Hey, so your website, your Cornerstone's website is cornerstonehealingcenter.com. If people wanted to reach out to you, or do you want to share some of the other stuff you got going on in case people want to reach out to you?
Yeah, if you're looking for help or get somebody in treatment, cornerstonehealingcenter.com. If you want to follow me or see the nonsense that I'm up to, or reach out to me directly, you can find me on Instagram. It's just my name, Estil, Estil Wallace.
Okay. Isn't that _ Wallace?
It is. It's _ Wallace. Yeah.
Estil _ Wallace. I'll put that, of course, in the show notes.
Cool.
And then also, of course, your LinkedIn is your first and last name with no underscore. I'll
Correct.
put that in the show notes. Man, it's been awesome to have you on the podcast. I appreciate you taking the time. A lot of wisdom here. It's fun to hear your journey. I love, and that's what the show is all about. I love hearing people kind of hit a wall or go down a path that maybe is not serving them well, and then able to recover from it and turn into a real exciting journey of success. So, and you're that story right there. So thanks for sharing it.
Right on. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man. Take care. Okay.
All right.
One thing that Estil said to me that really stuck out, he said, I needed to stop running groups and start doing CEO stuff. That shift from operator to leader is where a lot of business owners get stuck. Estil didn't grow his company by adding more to his plate. He grew by stepping back, building trust, and creating systems that didn't depend on him to do everything. That's not easy, but it's necessary if you want to scale. Now, here's my take as a part-time CFO. Most growth problems I see aren't about revenue. They're about clarity. When you're clear on the numbers, clear on the priorities, clear on your role, That's when things start to unlock. If your business is growing, but your margins, cash flow, or sanity just aren't keeping up, it might be time for a second set of eyes. You can book a no-pressure intro call at cfomadeeasy.com. Once again, that's cfomadeeasy.com. The link's in the show notes. And hey, if this episode gave you something to think about, I would love if you left a quick review. It helps more business owners find the show and the stories that might just shift their perspective. Thanks for tuning in to Think Business with Tyler, and I'll catch you next time.